Hi Khushbu, how are you?
Hi, Kriti. I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. So what's happening around? What's going on?
A lot of work, a lot of preparations for new programs, a lot of offers coming my way. Yeah, so
Cool.
I'm working on them. Yeah.
So let me begin with a short introduction of you. Khushbu Sachdeva is a business and marketing coach. She helps coaches and entrepreneurs sign high-ticket clients. Having 12 plus years of experience is been in business and marketing by working for an advertisement agency in Mumbai. She has launched a lot of products in the market and built up brands from scratch. She has worked with a lot of established brands like Ancient Paints, Vodafone, Dove, Taj, etc. And she now helps new service providers, coaches, and consultants to fix their business foundations, stand out, and sell. She runs her own high ticket sales academy as well. Reach out to her and book a 30-minute consultation call with her now. I will drop all the details in the description below. A warm welcome to you, Khushbu, on Journey Teachers.
Thank you. And it's a pleasure being here. Thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you. So, starting with the very first question, how do people actually identify and niche down?
Okay. Um, Mostly people think that they have niche down, honestly, like while they call them a fitness coach or they call them a yoga coach or they call them a social media manager or a writer, but that's not a niche. That's a category. Okay. Niching down is going one step into the requirement of a customer or a client, I would say. Say you could be a yoga teacher or a yoga instructor or a fitness coach for women who are new moms, or you could be a social media manager for fitness coaches, or you could be a writer for business coaches, maybe. you know Defining who you work with and what do you exactly do for them is a niche. Fitness coach or a social media manager also or a business coach is not a niche. Say like I am a business coach for coaches and entrepreneurs who want to sign high ticket clients, or I help coaches get sign high ticket clients. I'm not a coach for beginners, or I'm not a coach for somebody who's established themselves. I'm not a coach who gets you to six figures or five figures. I help you sign high ticket clients. So that's my niche. So that's how you identify the niche.
Absolutely, got it. So, how does one actually get inbound leads except for actually going to prospects themselves?
Okay, I think content plays a big role over here. When your content talks to the person you are targeting, that's when you start getting inbound leads. Say like how I said, if you're a social media manager for health coaches and you constantly put out content that caters to a health coach who's not able to put out content, or who's putting out content which is very common, that's when you will put content to cater to their unique problems. Okay, now health coach will have very different problems than what I have. Okay, as a business coach I understand content, but the poor fitness coach doesn't understand content at all. Okay, leave alone hashtags. That poor guy doesn't even understand what to put out there. Okay, so if you put content only to cater to their problems, that's when you'll start attracting them. That's when they'll be like, oh, she knows stuff about me. Okay. Also what happens is you put out your expertise also. Say like how you can help a fitness coach. Now a fitness coach is, like I said, their problem is different than mine. His or her needs of a SMM is also going to be very, very different. Like in my business, you don't have to research so much. My research is not going to be so technical. Okay, but for a fitness coach, the content research becomes very technical. You have to know about muscles, tissues, and whatnot, and food, carbs, protein, micronutrients, macronutrients. somebody needs to know that stuff to be a health coach's SMM, right? When you put out that expertise, that I understand what is a tissue, what is a, you know, XYZ terminology of a health coach, that's when you'll start getting those inbound leads. So
Exactly.
talking to your target audience's problems, their needs is very important. And I see most of the people going wrong right there.
Exactly. Agreed. So, what's the importance of branding and why is it essentially to be built?
Branding is what makes you stand out of the crowd. Okay. Like I keep saying, and this is my favorite example. Like if you are in a local market, in a store, and you are in the shampoo section and you see 10, 20 bottles out there, which one are you going to pick up? And you do not pick them up because it has a pretty pink or it is pristine white bottle. No, you pick them up for what they are trying to communicate to you. Like for example, a Dove always tells us that um we are for, like, Dove brings that softness in your skin, in your hair, and on, all their products stand for softness. Wherein a Sunsilk stands more for fun. A Clinic Plus stands more for medical issues like lice and all, or dandruff. So that's why you buy a particular product. You buy them for their branding, why, and that's what makes them stand out. So there's a lot of myth around branding that, yeah, when we become big, that's when we'll do branding. That's incorrect. If you like, if I didn't find my uniqueness in the market, like there could be 10 business coaches out there who are going to help you find high ticket clients. Now, if I do not find my uniqueness over there, why are you going to sign up by work with me? Then I become like any other business coach. So branding is very important from day one.
Absolutely. Building your personal brands really matters and makes you stand
Yeah.
out from the crowd.
Yes, it does.
Okay. So let's talk about the struggle to track an international client as well. It's a real struggle, for instance, in the case of cracking the international client.
Yeah. Again, as I said, it's a lot about content. When you look at, like when I look at a lot of SMMs and business coaches and entrepreneurs struggling to sign an international client, is because the content is so weak. The other day I was looking at a VA, of course, some other country. She had written, like, she had niched down so much that she wrote in her bio that she is a VA for coaches who are new moms. And that's how she was putting out content. Her content was all about technical, like how she frees up your time, how she brings in systems in your business, so that you are, you can focus more on the baby and all. See, now, with such a powerful content, why will somebody want to work with a VA who's just putting out funny reels out there?
Absolutely.
Okay, so it's not about international client or international audience not wanting to work with Indians. It's not like that. But our content is weak. That's one. Number two, see, Americans or Europeans have been blessed with a great mindset. They've been privileged. So the mindset is also, mindset reflects in their content again. Our mindset, we do struggle with poor mindset, and we really need to work on that as well. It's not just about having an international client. Even Indians are paying as much money today. So I don't fancy an international client anymore, because my Indian counterparts are, like, my Indian clients are paying me as much. I'm happy with them.
Okay. So, what role does mindset and confidence play here?
As I said, it's all about mindset. If you believe that you can provide a great service, or you believe in offer, that's how you talk about it. When you yourself think, oh, I don't know if I'll be able to bring in the transformation, oh, I don't know, the other person can feel it. And yeah, so they don't come to you then. But when you stand up and say, oh, of course I can help you with this, oh, of course I know this, of course I've been there, um, that's when the person buys into your energy and your confidence.
Absolutely. Then only by showing the appropriate confidence, then only your vibe matches and the person gets to
Yes.
understand.
Yeah. And that's everywhere, not just in business. Even if you have to crack an interview, if you don't believe in yourself or your skills, or the kind of money you command, even in a job, I think the HR is going to butcher you on the salary negotiation.
Definitely. So should people agree and go more with low paying clients or maybe less in number, but the high paying clients? What difference does it actually make?
Okay. See, when you're working with low paying clients, it's more about volume work. Like if you have 5 SMM clients, how many physically content pieces and how much engagement can you as an SMM make in a day? Okay. Um, it's like you're exchanging your time for money, and then there's going to be a limit to it. Like you only have 24 hours practically in a day. Okay. But wherein if you have, say, 2 high ticket clients who pay, they are going to pay you much more than your 5 clients. Number two, they're going to respect you, they're going to give you the space that you need to work for them. Number three, you have, like, every client wants to have one meeting a week or something like that. You have only 2 clients to keep happy rather than having 5 clients. Imagine having 5 bosses and now you have just two. I'd any day settle for two.
It makes a lot of
Because
difference.
it makes a lot of difference, because then I can create value content for them. I can do value engagement for them, or I can bring in a lot of other skills on the table for to cater to these 2 clients rather than having to work with 5 clients. Now, people have a lot of this thing about how can I charge high ticket. This is what I've been doing. No, I'm not asking you to just charge high ticket for the exactly same service or offer that you already have. No, nobody, I'm not asking you to tomorrow stand up and say, okay, earlier I was charging 5,000 for my services, now they are 20K. No, nobody's going to pay that. There's a lot goes into a high ticket offer. You package it in a certain way that you command a certain price. You specialize. Like the other day I was telling somebody, like, if you're a social media manager, you're doing posts, you're doing engagement, graphic designing, blah blah blah, 5 6 things. What if you were to become an expert in something? Maybe you become an engagement expert and you become a lead gen expert. Now lead gen experts are paid much more than what a social media manager is,
Definitely.
because you have that one task to do. Okay. So you find something which is unique, and your offer is unique. That's one. Then what you can do is, like, still, if you think, okay, no, I still can't be a lead generation expert, I have a way to go about it, fine. So then if you have social media services, see what else is your client hiring for. Maybe they are hiring somebody for tech support, and now the client has to pay, like, it could be me on like it could be me, somebody, a business coach is hiring a SMM, they're hiring a VA, for tech support. Okay. Can you take up this tech support, so I don't have to pay another person for it, and your kitty becomes bigger, you know so rather than paying you 10,000 for or whatever x amount, I'm paying you x plus 5 now. The 5,000 that I was supposed to pay to a VA, now I'll pay it to you. So that's how you expand your portfolios, you expand your services, or you become a very very tech very, you become an expert of one field that they need. So that's how you command high ticket. You just don't get up in one morning, okay, now I'm going to charge 20K. No, that's incorrect.
Okay. People also think that if they provide a variety of services, they will be able to, just earn so much more.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I would any day want to have maybe one or two team members. That's about it. Rather than having 5 different team members that I have to put in energies with every day. So that's a great idea to kind of if you're a resourceful person, I would any day love to pay you more and give you more responsibilities.
Okay, but that comes in the way of niching down.
It does. It does. Like I said, there are see, if today as my SMM, if you were my SMM, for example, and you start giving me tech support as well, yeah, see, you'll still be the SMM. It's just that your packages are in certain way placed that somebody can opt in for the highest package also, which includes tech support. Okay, nobody is still taking away that you are an SMM for a business coach. That's your niche. You're an SMM for a business coach, and you also provide her tech support. That's an added value to make your package high ticket package.
Yeah, all right. Okay, so should one think like they are missing out on opportunities by waiting for the high ticket clients and rejecting the low paying?
Okay, I see this very differently. It's not about rejecting the low paying clients. It's about if you keep working with low paying clients and they keep draining your energy, I don't think they it's going to help you to upgrade any which ways. So it's not about rejecting, like even when I feel that I am a high ticket coach, not that I don't give strategy sessions for way lesser. So maybe what you can do is you can give them an offer or provide them a service which doesn't include so many hours of your time. Okay, and still command a certain price.
Okay, absolutely. So, what are your thoughts on being present only on one platform, that's Instagram, and especially during this recent shutdown?
Uh, I Okay, as a beginner, I will recommend any beginner to start with one platform rather than getting overwhelmed by 5. Okay. But yeah, as you grow your business, I think it's imperative to be present on multiple uh, platforms, because Instagram brings in certain values. Say a podcast or a YouTube will bring in more what do you call that, they're more from the search engine point of view, like people can look for you. Pinterest brings in another kind of traffic. Facebook has a different ball game altogether. So I think as you grow, once you are sorted with your business foundations, once you know what kind of content to put out, I think that's when you should start growing your platforms, other platforms, and still take one at a time, not just jump on 5 of them at the same time.
But this recent shutdown teaches us the reverse.
No, I still don't think so. I've always been on Instagram. I have a very small email list right now, but yeah, I think I'm happy just being with that email list. And no, I'm still not venturing out on Pinterest or Facebook or whatever else. Yeah.
Okay. So, what should a service provider do in such a case when she is rejecting back to back clients, or because of the client's budget, maybe who are low paying according to them, according
Hmm.
to their value, time, and experience, and not able to track the high paying? So, in that case, is the service provider being over expecting?
No, I think the way we sell our services is wrong there. And I have seen a lot of SMMs and VAs making this mistake. They will always tell the coach or the person that they are going to work with is, oh, okay, I'll do 3 posts for you a week, and I'll do hashtags, and I'll do engagement. Now that's a value for money kind of conversation, okay? And with that conversation, you are only going to attract people who ask for discounts and who ask for offers, okay? Okay, so I'd suggest that you learn a few sales skills, learn what to speak on those calls, learn how to sell your services. And the way you sell your services is by showing them the transformation, not telling them, I'm giving you 3 post hashtags, blah blah blah. If I were to tell you, okay, Kriti, in my program you get 12 modules, 12 calls with me, and you get a few bonuses, which are this sheet, that sheet. You'll be like, okay, Khushbu, great. I don't need them, right? But what if I tell you, I'm going to help you upgrade your life? I'm going to help you lose that 5 kilos. I'm going to help you um, transform your business from a low ticket model to a high ticket model, wherein you'll have to work with fewer people than you've been working with right now. And instantly you'll be like, okay, tell me more, right? So that's where the mistake is. People talk about modules and all which is not needed at that point of time. You need to show them the transformation. When you show them the transformation, they're never going to ask you for discounts.
Exactly. That is so true. So, how should beginners deal with clients who expect them to overwork and be underpaid?
Again, if you show them the transformation, you'll never be underpaid. Number one, they will hire you for the qualities that you bring to the table. But if you tell them 3 posts, 5 posts, they are going to grill the fuck out of you. Okay. So show them the transformation, show them the value of your work, and show them that you know. And see, when you niche down, that's when all of this happens. When you're way too broad, you attract people who are way too broad, and then they don't know themselves what needs to be done, and that's a vicious circle.
Absolutely. So, any tips for aspiring coaches, consultants, or service providers to come online and actually get started?
Niche down, that's one. Work on your business foundations before you start putting out content and start burning yourself out by putting out more and more how to content. First, figure out who you want to work with, who your client is, what are their problems. I think people spend way too less time on this part. And that's where the content is all over the place, and there are no sales happening.
Exactly, absolutely. So, lastly, you want to tell more about your program? Like, how do you help people actually, and how do you help them?
Okay. In my program, high ticket sales academy, it's a 12-week program wherein I help beginner coaches and people who have been there in the system for about 6-8 months and been struggling with low ticket clients. I help them move their business model from a low ticket program or low ticket offer to a high ticket program, wherein we kind of work on their niche, we work on their business foundations, and bring them to a platform wherein they can command high ticket.
That's absolutely great, and I'm so glad to hear that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.